Hello, and thanks for joining on today's lecture. For today, we'll be talking about Cisco router modes. Um, Throughout my journey in networking, I think the most challenging when I first started learning networking was figuring out what kind of mode I'm in when typing commands. And that was a little frustrating to me because I was typing or dropping commands in a different mode and it would just error out. I just wanted to take a couple of minutes just to point out the type of modes and how important it is to know what type of mode you're in. So this is a new router here, and when you log into a switch or a router, the first thing that you will notice is this greater than sign right here. Whenever you see that greater than sign, that usually means you are in user exec mode. Here, we basically limited to the type of commands that you can type. There are switches that I've seen some commands work, but we can try a couple of commands here. So we can do a show run. It says invalid input detected. We can do a show IP interface brief. Okay, so that worked. Um, so show run didn't work, but show IP interface brief worked. Show CDP neighbor. That was work. We don't have any CDP neighbor. That's why we didn't get any entry. So user exec mode can still be used to do something. It's just limited. So the commands that you can type in here is limited. All right. Okay. So the next mode after user exec mode is called privilege mode. And in order to get to privilege mode, we got to type the command enable. So you can tell the difference from here that in user exec mode, the sign was a greater than sign, but then when we went into privilege mode, it changed into a pound sign. So in privilege mode, you can type a lot of different commands to troubleshoot. And then some of the commands that you can type here is one not work in the user exec mode. So for example, the show run that we type at the top here didn't work in user exec mode. So we're gonna try it here in privilege mode, and look, voila, it works. That command basically worked in privilege mode. So privilege mode can be, so that's where most, so like one of the commands that I struggle to fully understand the full purpose of it was just to show question mark, right? So the show command is used to look at configuration or look at logs and stuff like that. But if you don't know the commands, the show question mark gives you options that can follow the show command. So for example, if I was trying to look for an access list, show question mark will show me the command like I gotta follow with an access list. There's a lot of stuff over here. Uh, BGP, checksum, clock. So just you just play with it and see what commands are in there just to get you familiar with. Because it won't be like it's a lot of commands, so you might not know all of it. So if you need that help, a little bit boost to figure out what you're looking for, the show question mark command is really helpful. But then once you get to your privilege exec mode and you want to configure, let's say, an interface, right? There is another mode we gotta go into. For me, I was one of my biggest challenges was I was mostly typing these commands in here in privilege exec mode, right? In privilege mode. So like wanted to configure an interface. So let's look at the name of these interfaces. That will be something that you need to be able to identify too. So when you're trying to configure an interface, there's different type of interfaces. So you have to know which specific interface you are trying to configure. In this case, we have gigabit Ethernet 00, gigabit Ethernet 01, gigabit Ethernet 02, gigabit 03. So for me, let's say we want to configure gigabit Ethernet 01. In order to go into the gigabit Ethernet 01, you have to add interface and then the name of the interface. So interface gigabit 0/1, right? I am currently still in privilege mode. When I hit enter, it says invalid input detected at marker interface, right? The reason behind this is I'm in privilege mode, which is basically used for um, monitoring commands, right? And I am trying to enter into an interface or configure an interface from the privilege mode. So the next mode that we can go into is called global configuration mode. That is where we are allowed to basically configure interfaces or make changes to an existing config. In order to enter the global configuration mode, the command that we will need to type is configure terminal. So once we're in here, the difference between the privilege mode and the global configuration mode is that here we see the pound sign, but there we see an into bracket config in there we differentiate it. So once you see this config, that basically means you are in configuration mode. At this stage, we can go ahead and go into the interface that we were, and that worked. The command worked in configuration mode. Once you get into the interface, now this here is known as the interface configuration mode. So we went from a user exec mode, and then by typing enable, we were able to go into privilege exec mode. And then from privilege mode, we went into global configuration mode by typing configure terminal. Once we were in global configuration mode, we then went on into interface configuration mode by typing interface and the name of the name of the interface we were trying to configure.